Welcome back, everyone. We are now ready to start our second panel discussion, so please take your seats. Let me introduce our four panelists on the stage. Mr. Muraoka Tomohide, Chief Engineer, Sustainability Co-Creation Unit, JGC Holdings. Mr. Anatol Fagin, EVP and Chief Commercial Officer, Cheniere Energy, Inc. Mr. Hamed Mohamed Al-Naamani, Chief Executive Officer of Oman LNG. Mr. Uchida Makoto, Senior Managing Director, Japan Bank for International Corporation. And the moderator is Mr. Gunnar Steck, the owner of Enquidity. Please refer to the handout or go to our website to know more about each panelist and the moderator. Okay, Mr. Steck, over to you.
Thank you very much, and welcome from the stage. Welcome to panel 2 discussions today. This panel is about technological options for the LNG industry to decarbonize. I think we've heard a lot of agreement today on the political level that this needs to accelerate, that it is a given that the LNG industry, in order to survive, in order to earn its place in the energy transition, needs to decarbonize. And this panel will be about discussing options to do that, technological options, the challenges that come with those options, and the state of implementation within the industry on the ground. I'm very pleased to have 4 very expert members on the panel covering different sections and different roles in the LNG industry. And I'd like to start with you, Tomohide, and ask you a question. What are those options that we have, technological options to decarbonize the industry? I think you're best placed to speak about those from your vast experience in different projects. JGC has, I think, over 50 years of experience in upstream liquefaction projects. So please, what are those options that we have?
Thank you very much, Gunnar. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Tomohide Muraoka, Chief Engineer of JGC Holdings Corporation. Well, JGC, thank you very much, is engineering companies. And we have designed and built 48 LNG trains that account for over 30% of total LNG production all over the world. By leveraging our experience, we are offering a wide variety of low-carbon LNG solutions. So with regard to the key questions, technical challenges, we understand a range of low-carbon LNG solutions already incorporated into the liquefaction plant. For example, this year, we have received an order from ADNOC for Ruwais LNG project, which is motor-driven LNG plant powered by renewable energies. And we are constructing LNG Canada project, which is hybrid design incorporating electrification by hydropowers. Well, for other decarbonization in the existing LNG plant or new plant, we understand there are 3 main solutions. One is CCS for CO2 in the natural gas. And the second is improving plant efficiency to reduce fuel gas consumption. And the third, reducing flaring and venting during normal operation. In response to these emissions, JGC have provided our technology like a high-packed dry fogging system, and sometimes our consultation service to achieve zero flaring operations. And the downstream side, CO2 from combustion. We understand building CCS network is really important. So right now, we are working with Petronas and the Japanese partners to establish Asian CCS network with the support of JOGMEC. In addition, we recognize methane abatement in LNG value chain is really important. So we are working with JOGMEC to develop technologies and methodologies for quantification of methane emissions. We believe this will contribute to JOGMEC Green Initiative and the reduction of methane emissions throughout LNG supply chains. Well, promoting this low-carbon LNG solution, I think the cost is one of the biggest challenges. For example, CCS and the fuel replacement in the liquefaction plant will have a significant impact on the reduction of carbon footprint, but they are really expensive. So the cost may significantly affect the competitiveness of low-carbon LNG in the market. Well, in this viewpoint, I hope the IEA study, roadmap study ongoing, will play a, crucial role to balance the cost issue with the importance of low-carbon LNG. And if we can compare the use of low-carbon LNG and the hydrogen in Japan, for example, we may be able to see how low-carbon LNG is currently superior to other carbon-neutral energy like hydrogen in cost and the carbon footprint point of view. Well, on the other hand, I think one of the challenges in the IEA study is how to estimate cost. Because nowadays, even engineering companies have difficulty to estimate the cost due to the recent spikes in the materials, equipment, and labors. So I think the careful consideration is required for the cost estimation in the studies. Well, finally, natural gas and LNG will play a crucial role in the transition towards carbon-neutral society. So it is really important to encourage LNG supply chain to be environmentally friendly without compromising competitiveness. In order to address these challenges, we understand not only technical challenges, but also supportive regulatory framework and finance schemes. And finally, I think public perception will be essential. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tomohide. That's very interesting insights. You've talked about CCS, which is obviously in the upper range of cost for decarbonization policies. But I think I've read in one of the publications about the Clean Initiative that, for instance, avoiding methane emissions, well, we all know it's one of the cheapest options because it's about leak detection and repair, for instance, and it's going down. One of the numbers mentioned is $5 per ton of CO2 equivalent. So that's a rather cheap option. From your experience, is that kind of cheaper technology options, like providing leak detection and repair, swapping, or replacing seals, wet seals, dry seals, is that something the market is investing currently heavily in?
Well, to answer your question, yes, we have a market, but detection of the methane leakage from the energy sectors, well, we have provided methane detection system maybe 50 or 60 years ago, but the point is, the technology is just detect the concentration of the methane, not quantification flow rate. But because in view of the energy sectors, it is really important to detect methane leakage a little bit, and the alarm goes off, and the operator run away. This is really important. So they didn't care about the flow rate. But right now, we need to know how much methane leakage happened. So that's why quantification technology is not in the market right now. So that's why we are developing this technology with JOGMEC in our R&D for the market development right now.
Thank you, very interesting. Let me turn to you, Anatol, engineer. We just heard quantification. That's on everybody's mind. I think Shenyang is doing quite a lot of work in terms of quantification, monitoring, and reporting. Can you tell us what your company is doing in order to walk this roadmap of decarbonizing the industry?
Absolutely, Gunnar. Please allow me to add our thanks on behalf of Cheniere to Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues and friends. Of course, thanks to Mehdi for once again organizing this wonderful event and allowing us to be a part of it. I'm honored that for Cheniere, we have had the pleasure of attending the majority of the producer-consumer conferences. Unlike some of our friends here, we are about a quarter century behind Australia in terms of establishing exports. So we only started exporting from the US Gulf Coast in February of 2016. And the first time we had the privilege of being on one of these panels was in 2017. I go down this history, this timeline, just to lay the groundwork for 2018, which is when Cheniere unveiled its climate principles. And just like was already mentioned, the climate principles have 4 components to them. They are science, transparency, supply chain, and operational excellence. All 4 are absolutely critical in addressing the questions that we've heard raised throughout the day. One of the things I realized recently is we call this for LNG the trilemma. I actually think that's a terrible word. It implies 3 bad choices. We're actually of the view that all 3 dimensions of affordability, security, and sustainability will be delivered by the LNG value chain, and I'll walk you through some of the components that Cheniere is contributing to this. In 2018, we unveiled these principles. The world didn't see much from us for a couple of years as we launched a very multifaceted process to start quantifying and to start having actual measurement. The blessing and challenge of the North American system is that it is massively distributed. Cheniere in particular buys gas from 70 to 100 different entities every day. We move that gas on about 24 different systems that we control. Very different than a lot of the fellow suppliers that are in this room that have a much more concentrated supply position delivering directly into liquefaction facilities. So we've had to work with our producer partners, over a dozen of them. We've worked with our pipeline partners and our downstream shipping partners beyond our Scope 1 efforts. On our Scope 1 efforts, we joined OGMP 2.0 in 2022. As many of you in this room know, in order to achieve gold standard for OGMP 2.0, a methane target has to be set within 3 years. You should expect to see that from us imminently. We are fully committed, and we think that that is a wonderful model, and we love what we're hearing lately, obviously as supporters of clean initiatives, the Clean Initiative, and also the efforts that the IEA has undertaken on this front. So the world coalescing around OGMP 2.0 and IMEO's efforts, I think, are a very good path forward, and I think the industry will surprise you with how much it delivers in terms of decarbonization. One of the fruits of our labor, starting in 2022, every one of our cargoes has, that we supply to our long-term customers has had a cargo emission tag quantifying the assessment, our assessment of the emissions profile of that cargo. Now that is based on our peer-reviewed life cycle analysis. That's one of 6 peer-reviewed papers that we've had coming out of these measurement efforts. And while it is early stages, the effort by the industry writ large in North America, which again is very fragmented, I think is a great sign of the commitment and the dedication that you will see not only from Cheniere, but also from its partners along this value chain. We're in the early stages. We're getting actual measurement, as already has been mentioned. The industry is in the very early stages of deploying this, but we will lead the charge as Cheniere on the behalf of the US LNG industry, and we will ensure that over time, the emissions profile of our cargoes continues to decline and meets the climate objectives of our customers and the world writ large. So I think we have to come up with a different name than trilemma. I don't think there are 3 bad choices. I think there are 3 dimensions that the LNG industry will continue to deliver on. Thank you.
Thank you, Anatol. The industry will surprise us, but how long will it take, do you think? And what do we need in incentives or the industry needs in incentives to accelerate actual quantification measures to especially before the backdrop of the US market, which you rightly said is quite fragmented, it's quite unique. So what do you think is needed in order to incentivize the industry to do more, quicker?
I'm not a fan of broad generalizations either on the supplier side or the customer side. And again, especially when it comes to the North American system, it is a series of challenges. There are benefits. The US, from a standing start, has become the largest exporter, which is a good thing. But of course, it does have challenges that are more difficult to address, again, than an integrated production and liquefaction system. I think it is a combination of carrots and sticks. What you've seen to date is overwhelmingly voluntary. We have said at Cheniere that we don't expect to pay a premium for reductions in emissions, nor do we expect to charge a premium for the foreseeable future. We think that a lot of this effort can be done through best effort, through concentration, through sharing of best practices, and through transparency. We are big supporters in US, to your point on fragmentation and potential bad actors, of the methane rule and the fact that US production system will have to comply with that rule. But a lot of the things that you will see will be voluntary. We are writ large, long-term greedy. So our friends in these efforts where we voluntarily fund the institutions that will provide the assessment of these measurements and this additional transparency, all of that is done on a voluntary basis, and yes, Cheniere is a critical part of that, but so are producer partners like EQT, formerly Pioneer, now part of Exxon, and others. Lots of pipeline companies are contributing to those efforts. All of that is being done because, with all due respect to Dr. Jurgen's comments about the increased demand for natural gas for data centers and hyperscalers going forward in North America, the production function largely believes that its future is the export business, and that is very firmly concentrated in Asia. It is in our selfish interest, with 4,000 trillion cubic feet of reserves, with already the world's largest and growing export function, to make sure that our product is around for decades to come. And the investments we will have to make are very modest relative to the already 45 billion and counting that Cheniere has invested in its liquefaction facilities. So I think a combination of all of the above, voluntary efforts, some amount of regulation, and of course, additional investments that we will make ourselves, and you'll hear more about, I'm sure, on the panel as we continue, are all part of that equation.
That's very clear. One more question to you. You're talking about relatively modest investments, but still investments that are needed to quantify and to decarbonize the industry. Wouldn't it be justified to ask for a premium for low carbon gas?
Well, again, I've said for a better part of a decade that we don't expect to charge a premium for this continued effort and continued decarbonization, in part because what we have been doing from a scale standpoint of investment just pales in comparison to the tens of billions of dollars that we invest in our facilities. Now, in our liquefaction life cycle analysis, about half of the GHG emissions come from upstream of our plant, about a quarter in the transportation downstream of our plant. And of course, for the liquefaction facilities in Scope 1, the methane component is a very small part of the equation. It is mostly CO2 from the combustion and gas processing side. So a lot of the investment is going to essentially pay for itself for the foreseeable future. Our friends at EQT, for example, replaced actuators, saved themselves the gas that was being leaked, and reduced the CO2e emissions by over 500,000 tons per year, just by doing the things that should have been done, and again, paid for itself by capturing that previously fugitive methane. So lots of things to come from the industry. Again, the ingenuity and the level of dispatch of these solutions, I think we're just on the starting line of.
Thank you, Anatol. And leading over to you, Hamed, you are operating, Oman LNG is operating an integrated project. In comparison to what we just heard from the US perspective, what kinds of experience do you share, and what is different from your point of view?
Thank you. Indeed, we're very different, but a bit of the same in quite some measures. We all have the same challenges, the challenges of being able to demonstrate to reduce our emission. We deliver LNG with high availability because we have a market that depends on it, and also our reputation in terms of how we report, the measurements and reporting. For an asset like Oman LNG with now 25 years, what is important is how we bring the whole grid to what the market is expecting. Oman produces gas, but it's not only for LNG export. There is quite a large local consumption, more than 2/3 in the power sector and local industry. How do we bring them all to build this reputation that everything we send out add value and what is inside also add value? Integration is around a value shared. So scope 1, scope 2 discussion now happen on the table with everyone in Oman, chaired by the Minister of Energy and Minerals, and enabling all of us to be able to contribute and share lessons learned, but also justify our savings. We're not looking at it mainly from an investment with return at this stage, but rather from an investment to conserve this resource that is finite. Oman doesn't have the volume that some of our colleagues have, but what we know is that we'll have gas all the way to 2050. Gas will not be replaced, will not be on a carbon zero world, will be on a netted zero world, a carbon netted world, in which every carbon molecule will be accounted for and somehow compensated for. Yeah. And to do that, we look outside our fence and we start asking ourselves, what is beyond electrification and CCS and the like? Yeah. So 2 key directions. The first one that we have seen, which is of interest, and we really thank METI in Japan, but also technology think tanks and capabilities in Japan, is around methanation or e-methane. And we signed up for it very quickly. Interestingly, for a size like ours, there is about 500,000 tons of very concentrated CO2 that comes out within your process. That quickly, if you could connect it with hydrogen, you already can recycle a little bit of that and put it back into your system. And of course, we need to build scalability, and scalability will reduce cost, and we think that you will be able to put it in your system and leverage your liquefaction capacity and produce. Very promising. We know the US is looking into that. We're sure because Oman and Oman LNG signed up, and we are at a pre-FEED stage, and we want to see that progressing towards the later part of this decade. The second element is actually CCU. We look more at circular carbon economy, and what can we do around an LNG site or a power plant and be able to leverage those wastes. Just as an example, we happen to be lucky that there is an ammonia and urea plant within 3 kilometers from our site. They actually consume CO2 and they burn gas for that. And the question is now, do we give them some of our CO2 instead of burning gas? And they use ammonia plus the CO2 and capture it into urea. Actually, urea goes into plant and it's fully netted. We hope the regulator will notice this one. It's the ability to put these and net them up and create an economy that you will not really build a lot of costs and pass the costs down, but actually reduce costs for everyone. Could we leverage the cost of gas in Oman in a way that the urea plant will be operating? Some of our methane, CO2 will end up in methanation. We will capture as much wastes and losses into our product, so we enhance our production, and from there we are able to actually pay for a lot of this decarbonization. So the government direction is more CCU, a little bit less CCS, and a lot of circular economy, circular carbon economy, which is the e-methane, that we hope that we will see pioneered, but we also hope that a lot of other producers will jump on the wagon, because that's how we will reduce costs. Scale will increase, technology will be diversified, costs will go down.
That's an interesting aspect, and it's an aspect of integration beyond the LNG industry, right? So if you mention circular economy aspects, if you mention the urea production in a fertilizer plant, that's actually combining the strength of the LNG industry with other industries around. What do you think, what's needed to see more of those integrated concepts?
Yeah, so I'll look at the example of Oman. We have Oman Vision 2040 that drive how the country would go in terms of society, well-being, sustainability, economic growth, and the like. Yeah. Within the Oman Vision 2040, there is a framework around sustainability and the net zero, but there is also quite a number of pillars, including energy. And what you want to ask yourself in this area is how you integrate all your factors. So Oman has committed on a hydrogen economy, to be a leader in hydrogen economy. For us, it was not competition, it's complementarity. So how do we bring hydrogen and consume it? Can LNG consume some of the hydrogen instead of exporting it where there is quite a large cost of export for hydrogen? But again, hydrogen can be used into e-methane. But for that also, there is significant growth of renewable that will happen within the area where we are operating it. And renewable is decreasing in costs and becoming extremely competitive. So electrification plus renewable adds up very, very well. And I think our colleague said it quite well. For a site like ours, there is almost 65% of our emissions in what we call the gas-fired machines. You electrify them, that's one stage. But if you still buy power from the grid, essentially you're moving from scope 1 to 2. But essentially what we would like to do in Oman is move it completely and net it. So wind and solar, that will complement each other between day and night. Battery is still very expensive, so we'll see when we get there. And use those green electrons to drive these motors and compressors, and from there significantly drop our emission. So sometimes we're jealous of countries that have hydro, but at the time we're actually fortunate and we smile. We say, okay, maybe we got, nature gave us a second swing. Yeah, so we get a reverse with the ability to leverage renewable in terms of complementarity between solar and wind and electrify. So technology is welcome. Competitive technology is definitely welcome. Can we afford to replace those machines? Yes. If the right time, the market follows with us, yeah, so they're prepared as well to work with us. The regulators follow with us, and they're prepared. And we see that the investors, so renewable will not be done by Oman LNG, it will actually be done by another party. They will be better than us in renewable. Electrification, somebody else, they will be better than us, and we will focus on what we are best at, which is producing LNG and delivering it. That's how we approach it in Oman. Segmentation around the value chain, but with a clear goal.
And all the segregated parts complementing each other. That's a very interesting and dynamic proposition, I think. Moving on to you, I think the investment part and the investor part and the incentives that public lenders can give in order for decarbonization of the industry is quite huge. Can you talk us through what JBIC does in order to, how do you reflect in your daily work a decarbonization roadmap for the industry?
Yeah, thank you very much. Introduce me on the case of the energy production, produce and consumer company in Hiroshima. I'm truly honored to have the opportunity to participate in this panel. And we are, JBIC is a policy-based financial institution of Japan. So one of our mandate is to secure the natural resources, especially the energy resources, which is the most important mandate for us. In particular, in the area of the gas, including the LNG, we JBIC have been supporting the activities, activities of the Japanese company in all stage of the gas supply chain, including the upstream gas field development, LNG production, and also the gas-fired power plant by utilizing the variety of the finance menu, debt financing, the guarantee, and equity investment. Meanwhile, the global trend toward carbon neutrality is irreversible global challenge. And at the G7 Leaders Summit held in the Elmau of Germany in 2022, it was agreed that in principle, public finance support for the unabated fossil fuel energy project end at the end of the year 2022. In case of the after that, in case of the year, we are considering our financing for the unabated fossil fuel project, including the energy project. We need to confirm the necessity for the energy security for the Japan, or consistency with the host country, the NDC, under the Paris Agreement, which Japanese government has set out as a requirement based upon the so-called Elmau Agreement. I think there have been various discussions since this morning. Gas, including the LNG, will continue to be very, very important, indispensable as a transition energy for Japan. Also, the many Asian countries have the high ratio of the coal-fired power plant. And we believe that the role of the gas-fired power plant as a transition energy source is also the indispensable in these Asian countries. Of course, in the near future, gas-related business, the use of the CCS is very, very important in the upstream gas field development. Also, in midstream LNG production, the use of the e-drive and gas flare countermeasures also will be important to reduce greenhouse gas emission. These efforts will not only reduce the scope 1 for the gas producer, but also reduce scope 3 for us, financer. This kind of effort will become the increasingly important for the sustainable development of the LNG. JBIC, we updating and announce a medium-term management plan every 3 years. In the most recent management plan, we have stated, and we will strengthen our effort to the secure energy, including the LNG. Also, we will tackle to develop CCUS project and the carbon cycle business, in addition to the development of the renewable energy, including the hydrogen ammonia. JBIC has been working closely with a Japanese company on a day-to-day basis to secure energy and to achieve the carbon neutrality. Also, we have been working with a global gas producer participating in this conference to formulate the necessary financing for the project around the world. We hope to promote collaboration between Japanese company and global gas producer in order to steadily implement a global energy transition. That is our recent effort.
Thank you, Makoto. One follow-up question. Straightforward, do you think there are enough projects for JBIC to finance and meet your guidelines in terms of sustainability? Or do you struggle to find good projects to invest in?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a difficult question, but I don't think the finance is a sole, solution for the for the project utilizing the advanced technology. So it's quite important for us to how we can coordinate, how we can share the risk as cost among the related parties, including the lender and the sponsor and host countries. So then we should try to best practice. Then we will try to expand this kind of best practice to several projects around the world.
Thank you very much. Well, I think this panel has discussed decarbonization options, technological options, before the backdrop of the IEA developing a roadmap for decarbonization in the LNG industry. If each of you would say, okay, I need to see this or that in that roadmap, it's indispensable to have that kind of focus. What would come to your mind, Tomohide?
Well, as I said in the first speech, I think it will be really helpful if we can compare the low carbon LNG and the hydrogen usage in Japan, because the usage in Japan in hydrogen is quite unique from the other countries like Europe and the United States. We have to import hydrogen with the liquefaction. So that's why if the IEA roadmap study can compare the low carbon LNG usage and the hydrogen use in Japan, in view of the cost and LCA carbon footprint, whole carbon footprint, in that case, we may be able to see different aspects for the advantage of low carbon LNG. So I hope this kind of things will be incorporated.
Very good. Anatol, do you have any specific ask for the IEA to focus on one thing?
We've already talked about it a little bit, but I think one of the great things that we've seen over really the last year and a half is the coalescing around the OGMP 2.0 methodology, disclosure, partnerships. I think you asked me a question of what can be done. I think it is a very heterogeneous answer, really depending on the theater, depending on the actors involved in that theater, but having a unifying sort of North Star that already has the participation of, I believe, every IOC, most NOCs, and a lot of other players in the oil and gas space, and continuing to drive that forward as a unifying sort of source of truth for the industry, instead of everybody trying to reinvent the wheel and coming up with different standards and goals, would be my kind of ask and hope. And I think that that the world over the next 3 to 5 years will see tremendous results of that focus and effort.
Very good. So hydrogen, OGMP, Ahmed, what would be your ask to the IEA?
I think it will be the same. So I'm not going to repeat, but I think consistency and direction for all of us is welcome. It allows us not to change every time that focus. It also allows us to talk the same language across regulators, producers, the society around us, of course, that are important stakeholders, and the customers. So, and of course, our colleague as well from the investment and the banking. That would help a lot, and it will allow us to really drive a meaningful transition. What is also interesting is the roadmap to 2050 require clear milestones. And there, I don't think, if you look at all the scenarios, let's break them down. Let's start breaking down how 5 years from now would look like, because it takes 4 years to build an LNG plant. It also takes about 4 to 5 years sometimes to put a technology to decarbonize, because you have to wait for the turnarounds and the like. So once we have the definition the clear milestone that we together as a community, including with IEA, agree in terms of step-by-step meaningful target that will achieve in a short time frame that we can be holding ourselves accountable to each other. Yeah, thanks.
Very good. Accountability. And Makoto, your last words. What would you ask from JBIC's perspective to the IEA to include?
Yeah, I agree with totally agree with as a panelists, but roadmap by IEA is a very helpful to how we can coordinate, how we can coordinate the solution in order to find out the solution. It's quite helpful, I think.
Coordination of the different actors. I think that's very networking, working together in order to decarbonize the industry. I think we've come to the end of this panel. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did, and thank you again for being with me here on stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Steck and the panelists for sharing your insights. This concludes the panel discussion too.